Recording in progress.
Okay. Noswaith dda.
Good evening. My name is Councillor Gwenno Ellis, and I'm the Chair of the Education and Skills Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I would like to welcome you all to the meeting today, which is a multi-location meeting. I'd like to welcome two people to Mr. Steve Williams, who is attending his first meeting as member of this committee, and also Ms. Gronia B, who is joining us tonight as an observer. Also, welcome to the Youth Council representative. Welcome. All the meetings were open to the public, will be recorded and live streamed, and they will be watched after the meeting has come to a conclusion. If the live streaming fails, then the meeting will continue and the recording will be available through the Council's website after the meeting has finished. I'd like to remind members that a translation is available, and that those who are joining remotely need to choose their language. For those who wish to speak in the chamber, please raise your hand. For those who are attending remotely, please use the raised hand function. Speakers in the chamber and remote attendees will be invited to speak in turn. For those attending from remotely, please reminded not to use the chat facility, as those in the chamber won't be using it. People are asked to keep the cameras on during discussions and also during the voting for accuracy in decision making. If you need to leave the meeting, please make a note in the chat facility so that the Democratic Services Officer is aware of that, and then please do let us know when you have returned. I expect for those present and those taking part in this meeting to behave appropriately and respectfully towards each other. This is relevant to members and officers. This evening there aren't anybody in the public gallery, so we will proceed onto the agenda. Item number 1, apologies for absence.
After all that, no apologies for absence.
No, Cynghorydd Broccoli.
Councillor Broccoli.
Yeah, I think Dav Jones gives his apologies if he's not made it here. He wasn't feeling well, and I can only make the first 45 minutes, so I'd like to apologise when I've got to leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, declarations of interest. Do you remember you need to declare the nature of your personal interests. Councillor Gareth. I'm Vice Chair of Governors at Ysgol Creuddyn on behalf of the Council. I don't know whether that's relevant.
Yeah, there's an exemption from that being prejudicial, so it's personal only. So thank you for declaring that.
Neb ar y screen.
Nobody on the screen. Councillor Austin. I think each councillor who is a governor of school governors, that they need to make a declaration as well. Is that so?
Yeah, we can take a note of all school governors, and I can declare on behalf, Chair, if that's okay, of all school governors, if they are appointed by the authority, then there is an exemption, automatic exemption in the code from that being a prejudicial interest. And if they are not, then so long as a matter doesn't relate specifically to that school, then again, there is an exemption under the code from that being an interest, and we can record that for all members.
Materion
Urgent
brys.
matters.
Sorry. Oh,
Oh.
Ross Harrison.
Online.
What would you like to say? You're muted.
Chair, if I may, if Ross is having trouble. Oh, she's unmuted now.
There we are.
Sorry. I'm a foundation governor at a church-aided primary school, and I also represent the Diocese of St Asaph's Faith Schools.
Yeah, so that's a declaration of a personal interest, Chair. We'll record that.
There we are. Thank you. Dr. Lowry Brown.
Dr. Lowry Brown.
Oh, Lex Moore.
Lexmore.
Dwi'n aelod o...
I'm a member of, I'm a pupil at Ysgol Creidin. I'm not sure whether that's something I should... Thank you for declaring that you are a pupil at Ysgol Creidin.
Unusually, Chair, I understand that's both a personal and prejudicial interest. There are decisions that may impact the provision, and so that, and I understand that those provisions are ones that would benefit from or otherwise, depending on the decision. So in those circumstances, it would be a personal and prejudicial interest. So it will be appropriate to leave the meeting before that particular matter on home school transport's debated.
Diolch yn fawr, Lex. Felly pan
Thank you very much, Lex. When we reach item number 6B, we will then ask you to leave. Thank you very much. On the screen, we have Councillor Ivar Lloyd. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have children at Ysgol Creidin. They haven't yet reached the age of post 16, but they're close enough, yeah, just to be safe.
I think what's important is whether or not, Councillor Ivor, that the actual what any of the recommendations could impact on your children. If they could, then I would recommend that you declare a personal and prejudicial interest. But if that's not the case, then it will be personal only.
Iawn, Cynghorydd Ifor?
Right, fine. Councillor Ifor? Must be then. Item 3, urgent matters. I'm not aware of any urgent matters. Thank you, Sally. Item 4, minutes of the school budget forum. We've all received them. They're on page 3 to 9 on the pack. Could I have a move? Somebody to move, please. Colette.
And Cynnig, do you propose
proposing those?
Is
there a seconder?
Do we have a seconder? Cynghorydd Anne McCaffrey.
Councillor Anne McCaffrey. Thank you. Could we have a show of hands so that we are in agreement? Thank you. Item 5. Questions for cabinet members. There aren't any. Item 6A, Welsh in Education Strategic Plan, pages 10 to 55 in your pack. Cabinet Member, Councillor Julie Fallon, will present the report, and the Welsh Education team will present the report, but I understand that somebody's going to present on behalf of the coordinator tonight. John Paul, yeah? There we are. Thank you. Councillor Julie, thank you.
The translation is not, I don't know what it's like online. I don't know, it's echoey, and I don't know if there's something they need to do to drop the sound, but it's just not working right in the chamber. I assume it's working okay online, but yeah, just to make you aware, whether the translator is able to try and mute out the chair's voice, because it's just echoing back, but not thus far. I don't think it's your fault. No, it's just echoing, so it's really hard to follow. But yeah,
just to say, it won't be coming through my headphones.
John comes in a minute. So anyway, sorry, I just wanted to highlight that. Okay, so today we are presenting a report to provide members with an update on the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan, the Conway WESP, as it's known, the action plan for 22 to 27. I'm really proud of this. The team have worked so hard on this for years, and we've always been ahead of the game across Wales, really, in terms of what we're putting forward. And yeah, it's a really great piece of work. And what you're going to hear today is John's going to go through an overview of the progress made against the targets set out in the WESP, and the action plan detailing achievements to date and what the next steps are. So without stealing his thunder, I will hand over to John to go through the report. Diolch.
Are you here? Can you hear me? Yep. Yes, fine. Thank you very much. I apologise that Elwyn Jones isn't here this afternoon, but I'm presenting on her behalf, as she is the author of the report. So in line with the Welsh Standards and Organisation Act 2013, local authorities have a duty, strategy duty, to prepare and present this plan.
Mine are not great either.
I think it's everyone done it. Yeah.
Yeah, for the benefit of those at home, can I just check with people online that you're able to hear the translator clearly?
Yep.
I would say mostly, but there's quite a bit of sort of stuttering, which is a bit disconcerting. So I don't know if that's my broadband or whether it's a common fault. So just declare that. Thanks.
Cynghorydd Keith Eales.
Councillor Heath Eales.
Hi, good evening all. When I was in the last education committee meeting, it was in the chamber, and you could hear two different feeds through the headphones, so I found it better to take one of the earpieces out of the ear, so then you've only got the translator in one ear and not the chair or the speaker in the chamber in the other ear. So I think it means just putting one earbud in the ear, but you have to find the right one, the translator in one ear. It's almost like you've got two different feeds coming through the same headset.
Well, it's a shame we weren't aware until tonight of the problem last time, because I'm afraid you're going to have to get used to this, because I will be conducting this meeting through the medium of Welsh.
So,
yeah, Chair, what happens is you're getting the translator in English and you're getting the chair in Welsh.
If I can help, Chair, I don't know if there's been a change, but I was also hearing two feeds, and I wasn't just then when you spoke. Could we just test that one more time, perhaps, Chair?
Right, so I'm going to represent Well, Julie Fallon has presented John Paul Jones. Somebody's shaking their head again in the chamber here.
I can hear two voices online.
Okay, is it because I've got my mic? Oh, no, I need my mic open.
I'm able to present in English if that helps. No, you shouldn't need to. It wouldn't make sense to present Welsh Education Strategic Plan in English, would it? Right, we'll just have to pause a moment whilst things are being sorted here.
Okay, can you put your microphone on and try and explain that to the translator, please?
Okay, so for whoever's doing the translation, what we're hearing is what you're hearing as well. So
yes,
when
I understand.
The chair,
yeah.
Or John is talking, we're hearing what you're hearing.
Yep.
So you need to do something that dips out the sound, or you need to wear headphones to hear the
Oh,
sound.
I'm with headphones.
We're not going to hear what you're hearing as well. If that
No,
makes sense.
yeah, no, I have got my usual headphones on. Audio settings, spatial audio is off.
What they pressed.
No.
Sorry. I just know that they did something.
Right, now ni drio eto. Ydy'r cyfieithydd...
Right, we'll try again. Is the translator able to say a few words, please? Yeah, maybe possibly translate what I'm saying currently. Still, there's two voices coming through.
It's the input mix.
I don't think it's anything that I can do this end, unfortunately. I've just done I'm on my headphones as usual.
It's whatever's going into Zoom. So you know it needs the chamber switching off for the channel somehow.
I think it's at the chamber end that you'd be able to do that. I can't do anything this end because I need to hear the Welsh that's been spoken, otherwise I can't translate. I'm on my usual settings here.
Yeah, it's going to be the translation channel. The translation channel is also getting input into it from the chamber.
Right, os e rywun yn
Is there
dechnegydd
is a technician here?
Able to help? Lex, you're the youngest here. No, that was a joke, Lex. Well, right. How difficult is it to understand what's being said?
No, I mean, we can get through it, but could somebody have a look at the audio profile and maybe try on background noise suppression, switch it on to high?
Right. Dawn is now in the cabin trying to sort something.
I've got Zoom background noise removal switched on here.
I hope somebody's going to edit this recording and take this part out of it.
Cadeirydd, can I ask Matt, we've obviously just had a cabinet meeting and I presented my report in Welsh in that meeting. Could you hear me? Could you hear the translation okay?
No, the translation was fine at the cabinet meeting.
Iawn. Dan ni'n
Right then,
gobeithio.
we're hoping now that things are working better now.
That's it. That's brilliant.
Is that better?
Oh, brilliant.
Oh no. Oh no. No. Sorry. Sorry. That's just you. Sorry.
Dwi ddim.
Sorry.
Isn't it?
Wel, dwi yn siarad Cymraeg.
Well, I am speaking in Welsh. Hopefully, things are fine now.
I can still hear two voices.
Oh.
I can't hear any English at all.
Well.
Iawn.
Cheryl, you need to switch your interpretation back on because it's been switched off and on again, so everyone needs to re-click.
Oh, like I do with my phone every time it plays up. I'll do that.
Mae gen Dawn.
Dawn has got a suggestion.
Reassign the translator. So can everybody online select their language of choice again, please?
I'd already done that, Dawn, and it's still coming over with two voices.
On Zoom, you have to mute original audio to just hear the translation.
Okay. Claire, can you repeat that again? If you're on Zoom and you choose an English, you have to choose mute original audio so you only hear the translation. Otherwise, you will hear both voices. But that won't help things in the chamber, will it? Ydy pawb
are people hearing me now? Everybody hearing me now fine in English through the English channel?
I think you've sorted
it.
it.
Pretty much fine through my earphones. There's some slight
That's not a
disturbance,
feature we
but
saw
if we
before.
can manage, I propose that we move on with the meeting.
Right,
there we are. Okay, so I propose that we move on as well. So, John Paul Jones, do you mind starting again, if you wouldn't mind? Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. I'm here. Apologise that Delith Wyn-Jones isn't able to be present this afternoon, so I've summarised the report on her behalf in line with the Welsh School Standards and Organisation Act 2013. Local authorities have a duty, statutory duty, to prepare and present a Welsh Education Strategic Plan for Welsh Government. These plans run for a period of 10 years from August 2022 32 to August 32. These outline how local authorities aim to fulfil the aims of Welsh Government noted in the Welsh Media and Education Plan. According to the Conwy's aim and ambition, we want to see Welsh language flourishing, to stop the decrease and increase the number of Welsh speakers. We will continue to promote the opportunities for all children that wish to do so, as well as developing and strengthening bilingual skills across all sectors. Our target is to increase the provision of Welsh in Conwy from 14% over the next 10 years in order to reach the Welsh Government's aim of 30% by 2031. So this report includes comments on the provision and the increase over the past year and is presented to Welsh Government at the end of this month once each part of data has been received. It builds on the previous report from last year that was presented to you at that point. So what are our main successes this year? Now then, there are more pupils having access to Welsh medium education across the sectors. There is training of quality and Welsh language curriculum in literacy and communication progress steps 1, 2 and 3 for all categories of schools, primary schools, including bespoke provision beyond that. And each school has had this offer, and almost all primary school has sent staff and cascaded information internally. There's progress been planning for increased Welsh language provision in playgroups, early years. There's initial progress for strategic school planning to move some schools further along the language continuum, including early discussion about secondary school capacity. There's work on support of Strata'r Iaith in English medium secondary schools, including mapping and enhancing external provisions such as Menter Iaith and Of course, we need to remember that Aberconwy School has received the award the Silver Award and Cymraeg Campus recently. One of those few schools that have done that in the country. Now, information about the next steps. We need to develop Welsh play groups through the there's a plethyscrated bonds arrangement in some settings which will support T2 category schools on their journey. We want to support all category T2 schools further to ensure that their Welsh provision is on target for 50% of the curriculum. We need to make sure that marketing and communication with stakeholders is transparent and use external stakeholders, again, such as the Mentor Iaith, to enhance incidental provision. We need to support a few schools along the language continuum and consider those that could move from T2 to T3 in infants and ensure again then that marketing and communication with stakeholders is transparent. We do need to support our English medium secondary schools to improve their Welsh ethos and culture. We need to improve access for staff cross-sector to access learning Welsh in order to support the ethos of school culture and the provision in all secondary schools. So we need to plan strategically to provide the Welsh language for learners at a secondary level. The important data that's been summarised in the report is the number of 3-year-old children in Welsh medium education. Our target for this year was 28%, but actually we have reached 29.8%, so that's a good increase. And in terms of 5-year-olds in Welsh medium education, our target was 26%, and we've achieved 26.4%. So there's a brief summary of the progress this year. I can now go through each outcome for you in terms of how we've moved forward, but I'm happy to take any questions if I am able to answer those. Otherwise, thank you. Thank you very much, John, for presenting the report and summary, and for Delith for preparing the report. And we wish her a speedy recovery. And thank you also to all who have contributed to the report. Now then, I'm sure that somebody will have a comment or a question on the report. Who would like to contribute? Councillor Jonathan.
Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for the report. It was really well written, really easy to understand. I helped to run an English-speaking toddler group, and we're not encouraged to do any Welsh, and I just think there's room for improvement with the English toddler groups and also playgroups. I spoke to the manager of our local playgroup this morning, and they're not really encouraged to use Welsh. Simple things like putting signs around the room, pointing to the door, the clock, things that labels for things that the children, just repetition every day. They would see these things, hear these things, and they'd go into school just with this real basic knowledge of the Welsh language. I think you could walk into our toddler group and you wouldn't actually know we were in Wales, which I just think the kids at that age are like little sponges, and they really take it on more when they are that little. So that's just my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joe. Councillor Gareth and myself visited Ysgol Aberconwy for a whole day back last month, and what they'd done to increase the Welsh ethos at the school was amazing. And I took many photos, and if anybody would like to see those photographs, you're welcome to do so. But this is something to take back. John Paul. Could I just respond to Councillor? If she could get in touch with myself and I can get in touch with early years in order to get that support for the provision for that group. It's all there for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really lovely. Thank you.
Excellent. Do we have anybody else? Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. I'm not a member of this committee, but do take a deep interest in these matters. I did raise a question when we were discussing the Welsh language policy of the whole council last week, finance and resources, and I was asked to address this question to this meeting.
Sorry, I can't hear Councillor Paul at all.
Bring your microphone closer to your mouth, please.
So I raised the matter at Finance and Resources and was advised to bring it here today. And the context is very clear. Colleagues will be aware of the recently published Senedd report on additional learning needs. And what that report identified across Wales was inconsistent provision. And the actual wording in the report was, especially for those accessing Welsh medium education and childcare. And it said, where good provisions exist, it is because of the determination of individuals, not a structural approach. And what it said was that not just in Wales overall, but in local authorities, there were significant differences, and many children and parents had a tough time getting their needs met. And it's a bit worrying if Welsh language parents and learners are not getting their additional learning needs identified, assessed, and then those needs met through the various pathways. So I just want to doubly sure, and I'd really like to see a report on the data on this, the actual hard data. You know, our 28% of Welsh language learners, if you like, is there data showing that if they have additional learning needs, they are adequately identified, assessed, and those needs are met either through an IDP or at a lower level through the pathway?
Diolch, mae John Paul yn
Can I respond to that? Yeah, John Paul's going to answer. Yes, there is data for each school. Of course, that's gathered internally. I'm aware that ALN department at the moment are doing a review of the provision that they need to do for the Welsh language within the authority. And we were to meet with a member from Welsh Government last week, but unfortunately they weren't able to attend. But there is so there's going to be a meeting in September in order to discuss the Welsh provision in Conwy further on that. Dr. Lowry, do you want to respond further? Dr. Lowry Brown, thank you.
And I think you'll recall as well, when I presented the outcome of our Estyn inspection, we were actually recognised as being sector leading in terms of our ALM provision for Welsh medium learners. So, you know, we can send you that information. We've actually had a published case study of the ALN provision that we have here in Conwy, because it was recognised as quite a unique offer. And of course, we use the data that John's referred to make sure that we can map out the required provision, and as part of our statutory requirement now to review all ALN provision, our ALP review, we'll be bringing that through scrutiny.
Thank you for that. I would be further reassured, I suppose, with this Senedd report. I think there were something like 38 recommendations, obviously some of those for Welsh Government and some of those for local authorities. But I think it's important, and I'm accepting what you're saying about the Estyn report, and maybe we are, where it says inconsistent provision, maybe our provision overall is better than most Welsh local authorities. But I suppose I'm still concerned, and as you know, take a great interest in ALN, that if Welsh learners and their parents, Welsh language learners and parents, are not getting a good deal anywhere in the system, then we need to be onto it. And I'm sure you're aware of that. Thanks very much.
Well, os ydi Estyn wedi
If
cydnabod...
Estyn have recognised that good practice is here in Conwy, I don't think we need one any better than that. So thank you very much to you all. Does anybody else wish to respond? So if not, then we will go on to the recommendations. Oh, we do have somebody with their hand up. Councillor Anne. Aaron. Sorry. I couldn't see. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you for allowing me to speak, although I'm not a member of this committee. I just want to say a word of thanks really to John, to Delith, and to the education team in their entirety for their work in this area. I do believe that we have an ambitious plan here with a clear ambition to increase the number of Welsh medium schools in the county. But in order to realise this plan, we do need to have the political will to put this plan in action. So I truly hope that we will have your support as this plan goes forward. So yeah, could I thank the team and thank head teachers and teachers for their work in this area. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Aran. Councillor Austin. Is it on?
Okay.
They're both on. Right, thank you. Making sure that everybody can hear me. Right. Then, could I also thank for the report and for the presentation from John Paul? It is an interesting and comprehensive report, and because of that, then I'm going to move that we approve the report and go with the recommendations that are in 2.1 and 2.2. Thank you very much, Councillor Austin, for proposing that we approve the recommendations. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Dilwyn, seconding. Could we have a show of hands, please, that we are all in agreement? Yes, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Councillor Anne, do you have a hand up there?
No, it's just it automatically come on when I raise my hand. So obviously I've had to now change the hand and take it off. Thanks, Chair.
Right.
Then item 6B. To give feedback to the members on the consultation, school to transport, home transport, and share the recommendation from the homeschool transport. They're on page 56 to 161 in your pack. Then Councillor Julian Fallon, Cabinet Member for Education, will present the report, and Strategic Manager for Assets Management, and will take us through the report. Thank you very much. And Lex is leaving us. Okay.
As the Chair said, this is to provide members with feedback from the consultation that was conducted on the home to school transport, and to share some recommendations with you today. I have to commend the team for working so hard on this. We've had discussions, gosh, in the 12 years I've been here, so many times at possibly looking at this, are there things we can do, changes we can make? And as you can see from the report, we've seen the costs increase at an absolutely ridiculous rate, most of which is completely beyond the council's control, with the cost of fuel and everything else. But so this consultation was an opportunity for us to really look at what the provision is and to look at each of the different areas, and to give people the opportunity to comment on those. And John's going to go through it, or Estelle, I'm not sure who's going to present now, but they're going to go through the report for you. What I would say is this is a kind of starting point, and it isn't the end point. Whilst this is what's before you today, we will continue to work on this. We will continue to look at ways of trying to reduce that budget, maybe encouraging families to do things perhaps differently. And yeah, where possible, obviously working with ERF to have active travel routes in, make things easier. Perhaps children can cycle to school, this type of thing. So there is a lot of work that still will be going on in the background of this. But what's before you today is your opportunity to look at where we're at now, and some possible changes that will help to reduce budgets, and also help in terms of encouraging young people to perhaps make their way themselves, or whatever options they choose to take, whether that's public transport. But yeah, I will hand you over to the team, to John, to go through the report, and yeah, I'm happy to come back, Chair, if there are any questions to me directly later. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Julie. John?
Diolch Cadeirydd. Thank you, Councillor Julie.
Thank you, Councillor. Good afternoon, all.
As Councillor Julie's mentioned, you have today in your agenda pack, along with the committee report, 9 documents and reports detailing information on the home to school transport. It is acknowledged that on a national, regional and local level, the home to school transport is one of the fastest growing costs in the local authority's annual budget. Since 2018-19, the costs have increased by almost 3 million, and now the overall budget in 24-25 for Conway's home to school transport is just under £7.5 million. Every local authority has their own individual home to school transport policy that helps assess learner eligibility. In Conway, we are no different, and the current home to school transport policy is available for all to see on our website. The Learner Travel Wales Measure 2008 sets out the legal framework specifically related to travel and transport provisions for learners travelling from home to schools in Wales. Our policy is based on these legal measures. Simplistically, the policy can be broken down into 2 separate areas: statutory and discretionary home to school transport. As well as the duty to provide transport to some pupils, a local authority as Conway has discretionary powers to provide home to school transport for other learners. A local authority does not have to use their discretionary provision to provide free or assisted travel. At the end of last year, Conway Cabinet asked officers to carry out a consultation to look further into discretionary transport. Before we look into discretionary transport in more detail, I'd like to share with you further background information and the work we as officers have undertaken. If I can please direct you to the screen to go through a brief presentation. As previously mentioned, the cost of home to school transport is just under 7.5 million for 24-25. It is estimated that over half of the costs can be assigned to the discretionary we choose to help home to school transport provision. At the Conway County Borough Council's Cabinet meeting in October 23, it was agreed that a public consultation should be undertaken to gather the views of all interested individuals or organisations on discretionary criteria in our home to school transport policy. So that's what we did. Just want to share a brief video that's been on our webpage about how we went about it and some information detailing the consultation.
In 2023, Conwy County Borough Council helped 3,900 learners get to school every day. 48% of these journeys we have to provide. It's part of what we do. But the other 52% are journeys where we chose to help because we want to. In the last year, school transport costs have gone from £5.8 million to £6.5 million. That's £700,000 extra because of rising fuel prices, contracted transport costs, more learners needing support, and other costs. It's important we use our resources and money in the right ways. We want to know what you think of the home to school transport we choose to give. So go on, read the consultation and fill in the online survey.
Diolch. We've shared consultation feedback on our web pages, and we are grateful for everyone who responded. Thank you. 1,123 people took part with a good representation of all interested stakeholders. Discretionary transport can be broken down into 8 areas. Transport to Welsh medium schools over the statutory distance when not the nearest school. Transport for learners who change address during their exam years of their education so they can remain at the same school. Transport to denominational schools over the statutory distance. Transport for Gypsy Roma traveller children within the statutory distance. Provision of transport to two residents where parents live separately. Post-16 transport over the statutory distance and to establishments providing most subjects pupils wish to study at post-16. Transport for pupils with medical conditions or additional learning needs. And school transport for other specific reasons. We're talking today about changing the home to school transport policy, but exactly what is in the policy and how does it affect our decision-making process while assessing transport eligibility? As mentioned previously, the law we've touched on earlier, the Learner Travel Wales Measure 2008 sets out the legal framework specifically related to travel and transport provisions for learners travelling from home to schools. The mandatory provision, in line with legislative requirements, a learner of compulsory school age attending a primary school who resides 2 or more miles, 3 miles for secondary school, will be eligible for free home to school transport to the catchment school or the nearest suitable school. The policy has application process, our contact information, self-explanatory, ways to contact us and how to apply for free home to school transport. The Travel Behaviour Code is in our policy. The Welsh Assembly Government have published an All Wales Travel Behaviour Code under Section 12 of the measure, which applies to all learners up to the age of 19. The safety of learners is dependent on the standard of behaviour on school transport. Cases of minor misbehaviour, damage or injury to other passengers will be dealt with by means of warning letters sent to the families of learners. If a learner seriously or persistently misbehaves on school transport, the council reserves the right to withdraw the transport provision. This may be even a warning letter has not previously been issued. Dispute resolution. Where home to school transport has been refused or withdrawn, a family has a right to dispute the decision. The first stage of the dispute resolution process is a review by the relevant service. In the first instance, the parents should put in writing the detail of a dispute with any supporting evidence for the dispute. The onus will be on the parents to collate the relevant evidence, and the evidence should be focused on showing how the council have made an incorrect decision. If the applicants are dissatisfied with the response to their stage 1 dispute resolution, they can make a second stage dispute, which will be dealt with by a panel consisting of the Head of Education Services, the Cabinet Member for Education Services, and the Cabinet Member for Environment and Transport. They will consider the evidence and respond to the parents within 20 working days. The decision of the Stage 2 panel is final. Mode of transport. In determining the mode of transport required, the following principles will apply. The need for specialist transport and the individual development plan of special educational needs of a pupil as defined in a learner's IDP or statement. Mobility and transport may be lifelong problems for some learners and the parents or carers. Education should be a preparation for life, and transportation to and from school is part of that preparation. Length of journey. It is considered that normal journey time should be no more than 45 minutes for primary school travel and 60 minutes for secondary school travel. And finally, discretionary provision. The council may provide home to school transport on a discretionary basis where learners meet the criteria being these areas that we are being discussed today. Next steps that we will have. The Learner Travel Measure Wales in 2008 regulations require local authorities to publish their arrangements for home to school transport before the 1st of October of the year preceding the academic year to which the information relates. Therefore, any recommended changes to the policy needs to be approved by Cabinet before September 24 for the changes to be implemented from September 2025. Cabinet will meet next week, the 23rd of July, to review the recommendations for the new home to school transport policy. As you have heard and seen, there are 8 areas of discretionary home to school transport. The report recommends changes to 6 of these areas, 4 of which are recommended changes of our policy. The recommendations state that there should be no change to transport to Welsh medium schools over the statutory distance when not the nearest school, or transport for Gypsy, Roma or Traveller children within the statutory distance. The first change relates to transport for learners who change address during their exam years of their education so they can remain at the same school. It is recommended that this is removed from the policy. The second change is to transport to denominational schools over the statutory distance. It is recommended that the policy is amended so that evidence of faith can be requested. The third recommended change to the policy is to the provision of transport to 2 residences where parents live separately. It is recommended that the policy is amended to restrict to transport to residents only within Conwy County. The fourth recommendation is to post-16 transport. It is recommended that the policy is amended to provide post-16 transport to their nearest educational establishment, the nearest or catchment secondary school, Welsh medium school, or to the nearest FE college over the statutory distance. And the final recommendation relates to transport for pupils with medical conditions or additional learning needs, or learners who have school transport for other reasons. It is recommended that the home to school transport policy does not change, but operationally that members support the proposal to increase capacity within the team to work with the learners, their families, the school, and the transport services to promote independent travel to reduce costs. Details of this and all of the recommendations can be seen in appendices 3A and 3B of your agenda pack. There is a lot of detail to digest with this report and information in your agenda pack, including the consultation feedback. I would, however, like to highlight the importance of the equality impact assessment in line with our recommendations, and for you to consider the data in this document with any questions or proposals you may wish to ask or put forward. Lastly, I would like to again thank everyone who has taken part in the consultation and the officers that have been involved in collating these reports. Thank you. I now welcome any questions of this report. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thanks for this report, which deals with the non-statutory elements of school transport. What we're going to do now is to have a general debate on the whole report before we move forward to the recommendations which are on page 57 of the report. Now then, many members are likely to want to debate. Therefore, I'll allow non-members of the committee to speak once only unless they have a specific question for the officers. Iawn, mae gen y cynghorydd Keith Heals.
Councillor Keith Heals has his hand up.
Cynghorydd Keith?
Councillor Keith.
Diolch, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John, as well, for such a good report. It's absolutely mind-boggling, these figures. I would like to support the recommendations. I did do some quick research with people that I know. People have emailed me as well, and also residents in the ward of Gelia Llanddelis are also supportive of this, and also of the officers taking on views of the residents regarding the Welsh, the retaining the transport to Welsh medium schools. It is important to a lot of people, as I'm sure a lot of these transportation services are as well. But obviously, we also need to be mindful of the money that's that's been spent on this. I have carried out some quick discussions regarding transport for children with needs, specific needs. And I was wondering if it's been, I'm going to sort of mention the elephant in the room here. I know it's not going to go down very well, but some children with specific needs could be eligible for PIP supports from the government, which I don't know whether the education department have been approached by parents, whether there's any assistance to try and guide people towards PIP, where a child may be eligible for a motability vehicle, which would it's money there that's sitting in a pot for children with genuine needs that could alleviate the pressure on the homeschool transport budget, and also one of the most expensive services that we're providing as well. With behavioural problems and things like that, looking at transportation costs. If there's any officers that could be very aware or specifically trained up on helping residents to try and access PIP, person independent payments, which covers the mobility for children. It's just a thought whether that avenue could be explored, so children could be eligible for a car via Motability as opposed to home to school transport. Just a thought, and thank you again for this report.
Thank you, Councillor Keith. I think you've raised something now that wasn't in the report, but is there somebody going to answer, please? John.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Eales. That would be something that we will be asking officers with regards to increasing the capacity within the team to review as part of their job role. And that's something, that we have over 400 learners currently we're having accessing ALN transport. And that's something that we would work with them and to obviously promote independent travel, but also to work with those families as well, and to see which way we can help as an authority.
Thank you, John. Cynghorydd Joe Nuttall.
Councillor Joe Nuttall.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Again, really great report, easy to read. Great to see there are no proposed changes for the travel to Welsh medium schools. I think it's really important that we continue to support these children. And also, moving on to the behaviour code, does that cover no-shows? So when the taxi turns up to the house and the child doesn't appear for the taxi, is there a timescale that we let this go on for? Because obviously that taxi driver is going to be paid regardless of whether a child comes out or not. Is that for the whole year, or do they review it monthly? Or thank you.
Cwestiwn da. Diolch.
Good question. Thank you. John will answer that.
Stel's going to answer this one.
Stel's going to answer this one.
The travel behaviour code is set by the Welsh Government, so it's not looking at no-shows, it's the behaviour on the buses or on the transport.
Am I able to come back on that?
Of course.
Is that something that we can amend, or because that taxi driver is obviously going to be paid regardless, and that's costing us quite a lot of money for that child not to be using it?
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, we don't have a lot of no-shows. Regarding the travel behaviour code, that is set by the Welsh Government, so it wouldn't be something that we could necessarily change. However, we could look at using our additional resources. If we were to take them on for the additional learning needs, that could be also some other role for them.
Diolch yn fawr. Dr Lowry Brown.
Thank you, Dr Lowry Brown.
That point in terms of increasing the capacity, we would be looking at a structure that would include what we call traffic trainers. So these individual officers would work with the families, and Councillor Nuttall, if that was an issue, then those traffic trainers, those individuals would be able to work through those issues with those families and have that close link with the school as well.
Diolch, Dr Lowry.
Thank you, Councillor Joe, for raising awareness. Anyway, Rhywun yn y siambr?
Anybody in the chamber? So, Mr. Councillor Gareth in the chamber. Thank you for allowing me to speak, although I'm not member of this committee, but I would just like to say that I'm so glad that we're not going to talking about changing transport to the Welsh medium schools. I still scratch my head why we decided to look into it, because I think it's so important that each child and each parent in Conwy have the choice to send their children to a Welsh medium school. And the fact that they live far away from some of these schools, that isn't something that should be taken into consideration. We're talking about future generations, things like that. We're looking after them, our future generations, by giving them a Welsh medium education, and that's all I want to say. Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Gareth concurs with the report that we had previously, prior to this report, the West. Councillor Julie. Yes, thank you.
Just to come back on that point, the reason we included it was for this reason, so that we could show that we had looked at this and that we can show that this is a priority for us, that it works with our West, that it works with everything. If we hadn't included it, it would have always been the elephant in the room. Well, what would a consultation around the Welsh language give us? And actually it gave us incredibly positive feedback that the vast majority of people, in fact, when you look at the consultation, that was the question that was answered more than any other, and it was very positive. So this was about giving us that evidence so that we can protect that. It was never about removal. It was purely about an opportunity to say, this is a priority for us. It means so much to us as a local authority, as an education department, so that we could ensure that every child who wants to have their education in Cymraeg can have their education in Cymraeg. So it was a conscious choice that was made in the end so that we could protect the service. So yeah, just wanted to come back on that. Diolch.
Cynghorydd Julie.
Councillor Julie, I'm going to Councillor Julie. I'm going to go to a member of the committee now, Coletta Owen.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask, with regards to transport to denominational schools, with regard to the evidence that you would be asking for. As you can imagine, certainly some of our Catholic schools are quite multi-faith, and therefore it might be quite a sensitive and complex issue. And just really, is there any chance that there could be some possible discussions as to what kind of evidence is being requested? Thank you.
John.
Yes, absolutely. Whilst carrying out this work, we've looked at neighbouring authorities, and they seem to be requesting this information, but that's something that we'll definitely work with the diocese and everything on. That's not an issue about how we can pilot it out, if you like, to start with.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, and I'm sure, Colette, you'll be able to advise on what evidence is available. Thank you. He was first, was he? Right, Cynghorydd Cheryl ar-lein.
Councillor Cheryl online.
Diolch, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Just to concur with what Councillor Gareth said first, and I have 4 brief questions about the report. I think in 2.2 we talk about the changes of address. I presume that our children that are looked after and children that are currently homeless, i.e. in bed and breakfast, they will be excluded from having their transport removed. I do hope that there's flexibility in the system to deal with that. The second one was
Cheryl, can we answer that question first, please?
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, even though each case is different, we'd obviously look at it on an individual case basis. But I think that on that occasion, then yes, of course, we would omit that from from that as a specialist case.
Dr. Lowry, you've got something to add.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Sherrill. It's a really good question. And of course, there is discretion when we're considering our children looked after. But also as part of our Oak Tree Project programme, we do support our youngsters who are in temporary accommodation in terms of transport. We have been funding that via grant funding, but that is a priority, and that is part of the vision that Oak Tree Project that sits within our youth services and is working very closely with housing on that agenda.
That's great, Dr. Lowry. Diolch.
Thank you both.
The second one, post 16 young people with additional learning needs, do they have to move to the nearest placement?
Right.
No, it would be their nearest suitable school. So if it was Gogarth that were up to year 11, then they would continue in Gogarth if that was the most suitable placement. They may go to College Llandrillo if the provision is suitable for them there.
Lovely, thank you very much. And my final question, I wondered why a GP certified report doesn't suffice. I would have thought our GPs know our children best. So I wasn't quite sure why it had to be a consultant and not a GP. 3.5.5, I think that was. Thank you.
Do we have somebody who can answer that? Yes, thank you.
So that's currently in our policy. That won't change. The reason why we asked for a consultant letter is we would have an awful lot of applications that would be asking for transport on medical grounds if we went only with GP recommendations.
Oh, okay. I would have thought the GP was ideally placed to know their patient best. So I was a little baffled by that. But Diolch, Chair, thank you for that.
Are you satisfied with that, Cheryl?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Cynghorydd Paul.
Councillor Paul.
For allowing me to speak as I'm not a member of the committee. It may be helpful in the same way as Cheryl asked her questions if each of my four are answered after each question, just for convenience of the committee. My first question is the total savings or cuts we're planning to make. Now, I couldn't confirm this figure from the report, so I did write to Amanda and Gareth about it, and they confirmed to me that the proposed savings and cuts are £288,000. Now, I'm not just certain whether that saving includes the cost of building additional capacity, which I don't have a disagreement with, but I just want to be clear what proposed savings we are making in a full financial year. I know in the first year we'll only make savings from September 25, but in a full financial year, what are the savings we're proposing to make?
Are you able to answer that? Thank you.
I will try, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Paul. As normal, scrutiny, challenging question from yourself. However, I'm not able to give you a total annual figure. Estimating savings is not a straightforward process. The cost of a pupil journey varies considerably and depends on distance, location, type of transport, number of pupils using the transport a days. Is it once a week, several times a week, every day? The times, is it the same time every day? Varies throughout the week. Additional staff required, passenger assistant, pupil requirements, ALN, medical needs, who are unable to predict with any certainty the number of new requests for transport provision in advance, and all estimates and numbers provided above are using the costs for transport based on the 23-24 figures. You know, it is difficult to give you an accurate figure. All the data that we've provided in the report is obviously inclusive, and we share there how we've come to those figures and the breakdown of those. But But, you know, as I've said, really, we can obtain a cost per pupil per journey and assign it to a criteria as costs are imposed contracts. For example, you know, the taxi pickups, 4 pupils, 2 are ALN, 1 is statutory, 1 is post-16. They go to 2 different locations. It is really difficult to put an actual figure on these on this transport. So, you know, we put forward a proposal with caveats and estimates of costs, and I think we've done as best as we can with this report to give us an indication. There is also the proposal of increasing the capacity within the team to deliver ALN savings. You know, the posts there, we would be looking to review over 410 learners currently that have transport with ALN provision. That would be work that we would be working with those families, with those learners. You know, a learner with a passenger assistant in a single taxi could cost over £30,000 per year. With promoting that independent travel could increase the savings that we can make significantly, even if that individual then just goes in a shared taxi, for example, and that would be £6,000 or £7,000 annual saving. But again, without that input, without that review, I'm unable to give you an accurate feedback on how much savings are possible.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, John. You know, that was a really good answer. Councillor Paul.
Yeah, so, but we will need a projected figure in our budget discussions this autumn. I mean, if it's 288,000, it's equivalent to 0.3% council tax increase, which is relatively modest, the cut. If it is going to be either a bigger cut or a lesser cut, we are going to have a projected figure, aren't we, for our budget deliberations?
We are, and we have been providing the finance team and members with an indicative figure. I can't give you an accurate figure, but it will be an indicative figure based on the work that we've done, not just to the policy and the changes that we're doing now, but with operating the current policy as it stands, reviewing hazardous routes, you know, working as a team to look at how we can reassign contracts, make it more efficient. So that will be an exercise in itself as to how much savings and proposals we'll be putting together. And that's something that we'll be working closely again with the finance team and our ERF colleagues in transport. I believe Andrew's online. Andrew's online today if you've any questions on contract costs and stuff.
Thank you, John. I think we've scrutinised that area enough. Dr. Laurie Brown.
On a final note, I think, you know, outside of the recommendations and the changes that we're proposing this evening, a lot of work is currently going on in terms of, you know, reviewing our processes, making sure that we've got real clarity around our appeals process in terms of when there's a dispute around the provision of transport. And I'm pleased to say, I know that Gareth is supporting us in terms of monitoring the budget closely, but the overspend has come down significantly already. Now, that could be due to a number of variables, but I think one of them is very much about our tightening up of the processes and about, you know, the work that we're doing with Andrew, who's on screen there in terms of the contractual side of it.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Can I go to my second question?
Oh. Can we?
I had 4 questions. I did say at the beginning.
Well,
and they're all very important, and none of them have been raised so far.
Well, can you be short then, please?
Yes.
I don't want to be here until 8 o'clock. Thank you.
But
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
How about you try and bring them all together, and you?
Well, okay. I'll bring them all together.
Thank you.
My concern was in the report there was no benchmarking against the other 22 local authorities. So it's still quite hard to understand where Conway is relative to other local authorities. And particularly important for me on that were where issues of potential discrimination against certain groups, particularly protected characteristics. My third question was I'm very conscious from the internal audit report on home to school transport, which was only limited as assurance, that they've got a big task on to deal with those recommendations from the internal audit report. And that's why I do welcome capacity issues in that department, because they're under great pressure, and I acknowledge that. But I think we do need to be aware of that issue in this whole context, and I just want to reference that and sort of get some acknowledgement of that. And my own view is, and it's a question, we really should be targeting low income and low wealth families, apart from the issue which Cheryl raised about homeless children looked after. Because take, for example, when my children chose, one of my children chose to stay on in the sixth form because the courses were there that she could do. The other two children went to the college because they didn't do the courses in the thing. Now, for me and my wife, you know, we weren't high income, but we were comfortable income. We didn't have to pay for that. But I'd be very, very concerned for some low income and low wealth families having to pay for post 16 because the courses that they want to follow may not be available in their local school. And I think that is real discrimination of an economic basis against those children. And I'm sorry, but I think all these things we should be scrutinising tonight, even if the chair's a bit reluctant, because I think they're important questions for me to ask if no other councillor asks them.
Right. Chair isn't reluctant. I'm just conscious that there are many members of this committee who want to speak. Can you just pick out the questions from what Councillor Paul said, please?
Diolch, Cadeirydd. We've gathered information from 5 other North Wales local authorities which best represent our demographic and have had some bearings in our recommendations in the report. Many Welsh local authorities, as us, will be in a similar position, reviewing their policy with a view to reducing discretionary funding. With regards to your benchmarking question, Councillor Paul, we have statutory obligation for which we can't charge because of the PSVAR regulations, the Public Service Vehicles Accessibility. And that will be really difficult for us then to do anything with regards to charging for transport. And if we were to charge, then that would put an internal pressure on us as a team to manage that and to deliver that as a new system. And, you know, as we are now, that we are myself, Estelle, and Joe, a transport officer of the team. So we're a relatively small team that that this whole consultation and work is something that we've gone beyond to carry out. So we wouldn't have capacity. That would be something else that we'd have to review. So not to say that it wouldn't be a no, however, that would be really difficult to deliver, and the charging at the moment isn't an option for us as an authority.
Thank you, John. Councillor Anthony Bertola, you've been waiting a long time. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, interesting debate. A lot going on here. It all comes down to budgets as usual, and money and funding and all the rest of it. I mean, we've had 1,120 people took part in the debate, and out of that, is that right? 3,900 used the service.
Yeah, journeys.
Yeah, journeys rather. So I'm just wondering, a simple question, Mr. Davis, is it going to work, and are we going to sustain it, and how long can you sustain it in terms of budget and the rest of things that are going on?
The recommendations are achievable. They are fair. They are based on other policies that we promote as an authority, similar to what we've just discussed this evening as the WESP. And I think, you know, as a review, that we can carry these changes out, then I think, yes, that they are achievable. And that's something that we can work with in the next 12 months to carry out the changes that will become live in September 25 if approved.
Thank you very much for that. And I know that prices of fuels have gone up. We're all suffering that personally, but we have to adjust our budgets to that sort of issue as well. So just to appreciate what's happening anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jacob Williams. Councillor Jacob Williams, you're on mute.
Diolch, Cadeirydd.
I just would like to say that one thing, I support Welsh school transport throughout schools, and I just want to say one other thing. I'll change over to English now.
I'm in support of Colette, I think, who raised the point that regards to, let me pull up my notes here, the transport to denominational schools of a statutory distance, that we're asking students provide an evidence of their faith. As someone who has a faith, that is a deeply personal thing to provide. And, you know, we might not be able to, faith is such a personal thing that you cannot write it down necessarily. And you're saying that a child must have evidence before they can go to a faith school. But the parents might feel comfortable if that child goes to that school because those parents have the associated faith and they would like their child perhaps to come to that faith through the medium of that school. And I'd also like to raise the point, which says at the bottom, that the evidence of the faith will not need to be consistent with the faith of that school attended. Well, surely it would be. If the child is hypothetically Christian, and they would need to go to a Christian school, not a Muslim school, otherwise that would be illogical. That's my statement. Diolch.
John.
If we're talking about looking for evidence of faith, then we would have to look to see what evidence they could provide. If they couldn't provide an evidence because they may not be practicing at a particular church or faith place, then we could look at that via our appeals process. So we would put something in place for that. Also, we're not asking for proof or evidence of the faith of that school, so they could provide any evidence of a faith for any school, faith school.
Dr. Lowry.
Diolch. And, you know, we have been liaising with other local authorities, and we're going to learn really from some of the ways in which that goes well in terms of that evidence and examples that you know aren't as favourable. So we'll continue with that work and make sure that we get a fit for purpose process in place.
Thank you very much.
Diolch yn fawr Cynghorydd Jacob a diolch i ti am
Thank you,
ddefnyddio'r
Councillor Jacob,
Gymraeg.
and thank you for using your Welsh at this committee for the first time, I'm sure. Councillor Hannafleet. Thank you.
There's a few things I'd like to bring up, really. First of all, I'm very much in favour that we support children to have their education in Cymraeg if they've been brought up within a family that's Welsh, we live in Wales, and if they wish to have their education in Cymraeg, I think that's something that we should be supporting. I think the point of education is to allow our children to reach their best, to reach their potential, and for some of those that will be an education in Cymraeg. For some of those in sixth form, that will be a course that might not be offered by the establishment that's nearest to them. We have excellence in engineering, in marine engineering at Llantyflw and Rhos, but we also have excellence in wind farm engineering at Rhyl. And it would be, I would hate to have some child that had been taught in Llandudno restricted in their career choice when this is an important career that we would want to be encouraging our children to be following in North Wales by not being able to access a college in Rhyl. And the same with, you know, that we could come up with a whole multitude of courses that are offered at sixth form level post 16. So to not allow them to be able to go for the course of their choice is compromising their educational aspirations. And I would never want to be part of a county that decided to do that. I understand that there may be the same courses available nearer, and where that's the case, I think that makes sense. But if it's a specific course that is only
you know, if we're compromising their aspiration by not allowing them or not giving them the transport to that further away college, I think that's wrong. We have excellent schools. They all offer excellent education. And if we're at primary or secondary, they will all get a really rounded education. They will be good citizens, we hope, when we leave. They will be aware of all religions, all aspects of religion. They will grow up learning to respect each other and having those values and morals that we would all want all our students to have, and that are not particular to particular schools. So I do find it hard to justify the expense of taking children to a faith school, because this is about a parental choice, very special, very important, and as Jacob says, very personal choice. But I'm not sure it's in line with necessarily making sure they have the best education. I find it very hard that we would prevent some children, if we were to go with all the agreements here, all the recommendations that have been made, we'd be preventing some children from doing the course of their choice. But we would be using money that could be used for that to allow children to go to a different school that will offer a quality education, but that same quality education can be found close to home. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Cynghorydd Hannah.
Councillor Hannah.
Oes 'na rywun am ymateb i'r
Does
hyn mae
anybody wish to
Cynghorydd
respond
Hannah
to
'di
what
ddeud?
Councillor Hannah's just said?
Cynghorydd Julie.
Councillor Julie.
I think, as Jacob said before, and as you touched on there, faith is a personal choice. And I think it's important to understand that often a faith school is more a multi-faith school. So I know certainly the schools that we have locally, you don't tend to find the Catholic school has Catholic families there. You have all range of religions, because they grow up through faith. So they feel that they can relate, whether they're Muslim, Hindu, to actually just attend a faith school. And that is important for them. So, you know, it's a hard one. I see what you're saying. It's a personal choice. So, you know, it is something that I can understand is open for discussion. We do have to find savings somewhere. And in terms of the post-16, you know, we could have been bringing forward today removal of transport to post-16 altogether, which, you know, I would really struggle with. And for the points that Paul's made in terms of, you know, those families who are a little bit more vulnerable, who would struggle financially to work that out. But in terms of post-16, this will still be the nearest FE college and the nearest school. And what we have is a really fantastic system in place where we have the link course at post-16. So different schools offer specialist areas. So my son went to sixth form at John Bright, but on a Wednesday he would go to the college to study media. You can also go to certain schools to study law, to study different things, and they've done it in such a way because they don't have enough pupils excuse me, in every school for those courses that are a little bit more different or bespoke. So they will have it in our different 7 secondary schools, and children have the opportunity, or young people have the opportunity to choose. And I would imagine going forward, if it is that there are issues around transport, or maybe the children that typically will go to a certain school might end up to their nearest school, then we'll see that link course growing, I would have thought, so that schools can make sure, and they work together with that to make sure that there is that choice there, Hannah, so that pupils have the opportunity. So I know what you're saying. In an ideal world, we'd be talking about making sure that there was enough money to do everything, but we're just in a situation where we have to try and find ways of reducing this ever-growing budget. And I'm satisfied that there is opportunity there, you know, and I know that education will continue to work with the schools. I'm sure Claire will continue to work with schools around the link and ensuring that provision is great. But I've seen it firsthand in all of our schools. And there is absolutely the choice, regardless of the fact that you may then pick a school that's nearer to you. So I hope that in some way addresses that. Thanks, Chair. Diolch.
Diolch. Cynghorydd Hannah, do you want to come back?
Diolch. I'm aware of the link courses. I'm also aware of some schools that timetable some of their A-levels on their link course days. So there are some courses where it's very difficult to do a link course if you're a student there. It's not those particularly I'm talking about. It's the courses at the college that may not be on offer anywhere else apart from one particular venue. And that is for a lot of our children will not be their nearest post-16 venue. And I'm concerned that those children, their educational aspirations are compromised. And so I'd like us to look at, consider where there is a child where the course that they want to do post-16 is not on offer at their nearest college or their nearest school, that we actually do look at how we provide for them. And you've not answered, I know you've talked about the post-16, but again, I feel that the education that we offer at our primary school and our secondary schools, all of them offers, they offer a good education to a child of any faith, and they're open, and it's not like faith is not taught in those schools. They will be given a very good, excellent grounding in religious education and citizenship. That's not a prerogative of just faith schools.
So thank you, Councillor Hannah. So am I right in thinking you're asking that if a course isn't available in their nearest education establishments, that they should have transport to the nearest available college or school who offer this course?
Yeah, and it's not going to be many students that are affected by that, but there's certainly going to be some who have to make a difficult decision about their whole future career because we're not providing that provision, and by luck they don't happen to live near the college that is offering that particular course, and it's not going to be lots of them. You know, many of them of our students are doing courses that are offered at all the sixth forms, and therefore it would make sense that they go to the nearest and that they then travel on the Wednesday in transport provided by the school, because I understand that's what actually happens, to go to those link courses. But there will be individual children who we alter their choice of career because of this decision, and I wouldn't want that small minority of young people to miss out.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Dr. Lowry.
Yeah, really good debate, I think, here, which is what we wanted, and appreciate, you know, these are your opinions, Councillor Hannah, important ones, but of course they are your opinions, and your opinions resonate with what is currently in our policy. So we've put together these recommendations in order to meet in order to meet our commitment in terms of operating more efficiently and also to realise the reductions that are required. So, you know, that would be about a recommendation to not change the policy as it stands, because what Councillor Hannah is describing is already in our policy. So, you know, we're debating this evening on changing the content of our policy via these recommendations.
Right, okay. Oh, Cynghorydd Austin.
Councillor Austin. Apologise. I nearly was falling asleep. Thank you for the report. It's a hefty one and to the point. And this is a contentious subject. In an ideal world, the rights for each child, every child, to have education within the county, wherever they want to have that within the county. But unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world. There are pressures, financial pressures and budgetary pressures on all departments within this county, including this one, particular one. I agree to some degree with Councillor Hannah about the post-16. I can think of examples where there will be difficulties for some families because of, you know, or, as you know, I come from an agricultural background. The county that we live in is a rural one, and you have where I live at the top end of the county in top and lower reaches of Conwy Valley, and there are a large number of farming sons. They leave school at 16 and go to agricultural colleges, usually Glyn Llifon or Llysfasi. Glyn Llifon offers more courses through the medium of Welsh than Llysfasi. Of course, I don't think that would be a problem for those who live around me, because Glyn Llifon is closer than Llysfasi, but the problem is that if you go to the south of the county towards, where the chair lives, Cerrig y Drudion, that way Llangwm, they are closer, I would imagine, to Llysfasi, but the majority of those want their education and possibly some courses through the medium of Welsh. And so I do sympathise with what Hannah's saying, and I agree there. But having said that, I do feel that this report is a compromise, and I'm always somebody who is willing to compromise, and so because of that, I would like to propose that we go with the recommendations 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3, and that we approve the report. Thank you. Right. At the beginning of the meeting, I did say that we were going to go through the 8 recommendations individually, and now Councillor Austin has proposed that we just approve the whole lot as they are and not take them all individually. Do we have a seconder for the Councillor Austin to just approve everything, take everything as they are, and rather than go through them individually?
Councillor Keith Eales.
Councillor Keith Eales.
Did you have something to say?
Did you have something to say? Or?
You're seconding Austin, Cynghorydd Austin.
Yes.
Just to take them all.
Yeah.
Right. Can we have a show of hands? Or do we need somebody to propose that we do take them individually?
No, Chair, we've got a proposal in a second for exactly the recommendations at 2.2 and 2.3, so we can take a vote on that.
Here we are. Wneith pawb godi dilo os dach chi'n bodlon derbyn pob peth.
Raise your hands, please, if you're happy to approve the 8 recommendations as they stand.
Oes rhywun yn
Is anybody against that we take them all?
Taking them all as one bulk.
One.
Felly,
so that has been carried. We approve the recommendation as they stand in the report. Thank you very much to you, members and officers, and the translator as well, for your work this evening. And thank you for an excellent discussion. And good evening to you all.